Hello, I'm Sandy McHugh, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. Today I will be asking questions of candidates running for the office of Court of Appeals Judge for the 2nd District. There are 2 candidates running for the 1 open seat, and those candidates are Chris Epley and Marshall Lachman. We will start our interview by having the candidates tell us about themselves and why they want to serve in the position of Court of Appeals Judge. I'm going alphabetically, and I'll ask Mr. Epley to start for us first.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this event. I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters and the Miami Valley Communications Council for hosting us. You know, many times you would think that this would be in person, and I do enjoy the in person a little bit more because there's more energy and more feedback, but I really do appreciate you having this by way of Zoom. That's what we're doing now in court quite a bit, so it's not unusual to me at this point. But my name is Chris Epley, and I'm a candidate for the Court of Appeals. I was born and raised in Miami Valley. I've been married to my wife, Eileen Epley, for 18 years. We were married in Dayton, and we have 2 children. Our son Jack is 16, and our daughter Lily is 14. We're raising our kids in the same school district that I was raised in, which is fun and exciting, and I'm grateful for that. I've served the community as a Rotarian and volunteered with the club. I'm also on the city council where I live. I own my own law firm in downtown Dayton. I practice law in all 6 counties that make up the 2nd District Court of Appeals. I have a diverse practice. I do civil, criminal, probate, family law, and some administrative law. I'd like to tell you 3 things about me that qualify me for the position. Number 1, I teach appellate law. I've taught appellate practice and procedure at UD since 2001. Number 2, I serve as a chief appellate prosecutor in the Vandalia Municipal Court. So any appeal that comes through the court comes across my desk, and I handle the appeal. And number 3, I have judicial experience as a Dayton magistrate. I do that part-time. I'm qualified to do that by taking the continuing education courses. And so when someone's on vacation or sick or something like that, I'm one of the people on the list that they may call to sit either on the civil side or the criminal side of the docket. I've met a lot of people over the past year on this campaign, and I'm looking forward to this upcoming November 3rd, meeting a few more people if we can. It's been very difficult and unprecedented for sure. All the candidates are in the same position. I understand and appreciate that. But once again, thank you for having me, Chris Epley for Court of Appeals. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Mr. Lachman, tell us a bit about yourself and why you would like to serve as the judge in the Court of Appeals.
Thank you. I am Marshall Lachman, and I am running for judge of the Court of Appeals. I would like to start also by thanking you for this opportunity. As Chris said, these are different times to run a campaign. So we do appreciate you making this available to the voters of the 2nd Appellate District. I have lived in the Miami Valley for more than 20 years, having raised all 3 of my children in this community. My youngest daughter will be graduating from Centerville High School, in fact, in the spring. Professionally, I am a proud graduate of the Ohio State University College of Law, and for the past 31 years, I have been a litigator, having spent really thousands of hours in the courtroom. In the early days of my career back in Chicago, I focused my practice on civil litigation matters, including breach of contract, personal injuries, domestic relations, and probate matters. Over the past 16 and a half years in Ohio, I have focused my practice primarily on criminal defense litigation, both at the appellate level, where I have handled more than 100 appeals in the 2nd District Court of Appeals and argued many times in the Ohio Supreme Court, and at the trial level, initially focusing my practice on misdemeanor cases in the area's municipal courts, but more recently in the past decade or so, focusing my practice on serious felony cases, including capital murder. In fact, I am one of just 3 attorneys in the 6 counties of the 2nd District Court of Appeals who is certified by the Ohio Supreme Court to represent indigent defendants to be appointed to represent indigent defendants in capital murder death penalty cases. That certification doesn't come about by merely taking a class or taking a test. It is the result of having handled many serious felony cases and having represented a number of individuals charged with capital murder as co-counsel. I am also honored to have been recognized by the Montgomery County Common Pleas Court on 2 separate occasions for my work in that court. Most recently in 2016, I was awarded the Gideon Lifetime Achievement Award for my work with indigent defendants. I have also devoted a significant amount of my time to working with the most vulnerable children in our community as a guardian ad litem in abuse, neglect, and dependency cases. For that work, I was honored by the Montgomery County Juvenile Court in 2011. I am now eager to take the knowledge that this experience has provided me, the respect that I have earned for my hard work, and the dedication that I have for the law to being a judge on the 2nd District Court of Appeals. Thank you.
Mr. Lachman, we will let you be first to answer the following question. As most of the general public is not familiar with the role of the District Court of Appeals, would you briefly describe the scope of responsibilities, both geographically and judicially?
Absolutely. The 2nd District Court of Appeals is an intermediate level court. In Ohio, there are 3 levels of courts. There's the courts that most people will come into contact with probably at some point, even if it's for a traffic ticket. Those are the trial courts. Those can be the area county courts, municipal courts, and common pleas court. The highest level court is the Ohio Supreme Court. Sitting in between them is the Court of Appeals. The 2nd District Court of Appeals is one of 12 District Court of Appeals in the state of Ohio. Unlike the Ohio Supreme Court, that only hears a fraction of the cases that are requested to be heard before it, the Court of Appeals hears just about any appeal that someone wants to bring as a result of a ruling in a trial court in the 6 counties of the 2nd District. Those 6 counties are Champaign County, Clark County, Greene County, Miami, Montgomery County, and Champaign. I think I said Champaign. But any case that comes out of the trial courts in those counties is going to be heard by the 2nd District Court of Appeals. Our system of government is based on the concept of checks and balances, and the Court of Appeals acts as kind of a check on the trial courts when a litigant feels that errors were made in the trial court. That's the purpose. The purpose is not to relitigate the matter in the Court of Appeals. It's just to allow the judges. There are 5 judges currently sitting on the 2nd District Court of Appeals. They are heard in 3 judge panels each case. And the judges review the record and determine whether there was sufficient evidence to support a trial court's determination and whether or not the trial court correctly applied the existing law. That's the role of the appellate court in a nutshell. And it's a check on the system to make sure that litigants feel like justice was served and that the trial court did its job in having their cases litigated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Epley, the same question. As most of the general public is not familiar with the role of the District Court of Appeals, would you briefly describe the scope of responsibilities, both geographically and judicially?
Yes, thank you. The 2nd District Court of Appeals is made up of 6 counties. That's Champaign, Clark, Darke, Miami, Montgomery, and Miami. And so all 6 of those counties have trial courts. So if someone from one of those trial courts wants to appeal or object a decision that they feel is unfavorable to them, they have an appeal as of right, which means they can appeal the case. They can appeal the case to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals is not a trial court. There's no new testimony generally. There's no jury trial in a Court of Appeals. Rather, the Court of Appeals is mainly decided on brief writing. You review the testimony, the transcripts, the witness statements from a trial court, and then you draft a brief in support of your position. You also have the opportunity to orally argue your position if you'd like to request so. So the Court of Appeals is a 3-judge panel. They have a round table of 5 judges, and then 3 decide each case. It's similar to what we do in my class at UD. We draft a simulation or a problem, and then we have the students divided into 2 sections, appellants and appellees, and we spend a whole semester drafting the brief, researching, editing, and redrafting, and then they argue it in front of three local attorneys who we serve as judges to that. So we prepare those students to be able to practice comfortably in the Court of Appeals.
Mr. Epley, I'll let you go first on this next question. Approximately how many appeals of different classes of cases does the second district handle in a given year?
Well, every year is a little bit different, of course. Now, I would suggest that the most appeals come from the criminal side of the docket, because on the civil side of the docket, many cases are resolved short of a trial. So through mediation, arbitration, or some other out-of-court mechanism, parties resolve their civil disputes in most cases. On the other side, criminally, however, many people appeal those decisions if they're adverse to them, if they have been sentenced to prison or jail or something like that. They want to make sure that the trial court properly heard the case, properly decided, and that the sentence was not against what the law suggested should be. So every year is a little bit different on the number of cases that the Court of Appeals hears. There's also the administrative side. If there's some kind of administrative hearing that took place and then gets appealed from the trial court, the Court of Appeals also hears those cases.
Thank you. Mr. Lachman, the same question. Approximately how many appeals of different classes of case does the second district handle in a given year?
That number is generally in the hundreds. They hear hundreds of cases in a given year. It is accurate that majority of them are criminal cases. Most criminal convictions are going to be appealed, especially if they have gone to a jury trial. It's a right that any defendant has, an absolute right to have an appeal, to have another court review the evidence, to make sure there was sufficient evidence and to make sure errors weren't made. The appeals also come from the domestic relations courts in each of the 6 counties, from the juvenile courts in each of the 6 counties. There are limited cases where the second district would have original jurisdiction, whereas a case would be brought to them for a first instance, but those are very rare. For the most part, every case is coming from a trial court, a ruling in the trial court that is brought by one of the litigants. And that number, again, is going to just depend on the number of cases that are heard. But generally speaking, it is in the hundreds each year.
Thank you. And Mr. Lachman, you may go first on this next question. Words such as fair, honest, knowledgeable, compassionate, thoughtful, and open-minded can be used to describe a good judge. What 2 words do you think best describe a good judge and why?
I believe probably 2 words that come to my mind immediately are knowledgeable and passionate. I believe that, first of all, you have to have, especially to be an appellate court judge, there has to be knowledge. That is something that just comes from practicing law, from spending countless hours in a courtroom arguing cases, briefing issues, from handling appeals in front of that court, writing briefs, arguing cases, going to the Ohio Supreme Court, writing briefs in that court, arguing cases in that court. That is the knowledge that is necessary to understand not only the law, because any judge, when they get there, has access to online resources to research particular issues of law, but understanding what happens in a courtroom, the roles that everyone plays in the courtroom, the importance that the prosecutor does what the prosecutor needs to do and does it fairly, that the defense attorney does what the defense attorney needs to do and does it fairly in criminal cases, that the judge is applying the law accurately. It's easy for an appellate court judge to, what I say, Monday morning quarterback the decisions of a trial court. But bear in mind, trial courts don't have the luxury of taking days and weeks to research issues. They'll oftentimes have a jury sitting in the box, and they have to make a ruling within a matter of minutes, if not a matter of seconds. And errors and mistakes are going to be made. that is not in any way indicative of a good or bad trial court judge. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's important to have the knowledge of understanding what happens in a courtroom to apply the law as an appellate court judge. Then also, I call it a passion for the law. The American criminal justice system is a unique system, and it is not like this in every place in the world. And the fact that we have the ability to bring cases in trial courts, to appeal cases to appellate courts, and then even attempt to appeal to a Supreme Court if necessary and if desired, you have to have an understanding, a passion for the law, and the importance of concepts like equal protection under the law, the idea that justice is blind, that needs to be applied equally to everyone. And unless you have that, it's just, you're not going to be, I don't believe you're going to be an effective or, do your job correctly without that dedication and passion for the law that is necessary to be a good judge.
Thank you. Mr. Epley, words such as fair, honest, knowledgeable, compassionate, thoughtful, and open-minded can be used to describe a good judge. What two words do you think best describe a good judge, and why?
Thank you. I think those words do describe judges, or what we believe judges should be. But I think that two words that come to mind to me are integrity and leadership. Over the past 20 years of practicing in the area, I've come across many judges in many different courts, from family law to probate law to the trial level, and of course the Court of Appeals. And that's what we see when we see a good judge. We see judges who have the integrity to tell us right and wrong, but also I see a judge as a leader. A leader, when we walk into the courtroom, obviously they're sitting up on the bench. They have a leadership position. So I think they do have to have those qualities that you mentioned with this question, but they have to be able to take that leadership and be empathetic and be kind and be caring to the people that come before them. And I think that is also what's part of integrity, having that honest approach to resolving these tough cases, because people who come to court generally don't want to be there. So you have to be able to have some kind of empathy with them. And I think that comes through the leadership and through the integrity.
Thank you. And Mr. Epley, I'll let you go first on the last question. It is sometimes said that you are treated better in this country when you are rich and guilty than if you are poor and innocent. What do you think of that statement?
Well, I've never seen that myself, that's an interesting question. I think I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for appearing in the different courthouses, and I've never seen that, at least in my experience. And so I think the Miami Valley, this area, this second district, it's a great place to grow up, to raise a family. I just don't see that difference between rich and poor. In my practice, I represent all different types of people. I don't like to turn anyone away. And so when people come, and sometimes that may be a fault, but you want to help someone. When I was in school, or when I was teaching at the law school, there was a time of about 5 years where the theme was, or motto was, lawyers as leaders. And so lawyers as problem solvers. So as a problem solver, when people come into my office, I don't ask how much they make, how much they don't make, or where they live. I ask, well, what's the problem that we're facing, and how do we solve it? And it can be a large variety of things, because I've practiced in probate court or family law. I taught family law for 3 years at the University of Dayton as well. And so you come across a lot of different situations. And so to me, it's certainly in my practice, not something that I'm too concerned about. Rather, how do we solve the problem that's before us?
Mr. Lachman, it is sometimes said that you are treated better in this country when you are rich and guilty than if you are poor and innocent. What do you think of that statement?
I think our history shows that statement oftentimes has been true. It is one of the reasons that I have spent the last 16 and a half years doing what I do. A majority of my work is done representing indigent defendants, the defendants who don't have the money to go out and hire a lawyer of their own, who are relying on the system to provide them. I think the good news is, in the second district, we do have good attorneys who take cases as appointed counsel who work in public defenders' offices and get excellent representation. I don't think that's necessarily the case throughout the country, but I do believe in the second district, we have some very good public service attorneys. But I made a decision 16 and a half years ago that I was going to take my skill and my passion for the law and apply it in those cases to make sure that the poor who cannot afford an attorney, who cannot afford the resources that someone with money can, gets the representation that the Constitution demands. And that is why I have done what I have done. And it is for that the question that you asked, what I have focused my practice on these last 16 and a half years. And I think it's why I've been recognized by the Montgomery County Common Pleas Court for the work that I've done. It's why I've earned the respect of prosecutors and of fellow defense attorneys and of the judges that I appear before, because I am passionate about what I do. I am dedicated to the law, and the system only works if you have attorneys on both sides who are fighting for the rights of their clients.
Thank you. Mr. Lachman, it's time for your closing statement. So if you have anything else to say to us.
Thank you. I want to again thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to let voters know a little more about us. My passion for the law started when I was at a very young age, when I would listen to my grandmother tell me stories about her grandfather, a first-generation American who spent more than 30 years as a judge in Chicago. That passion continued as I learned about the United States Constitution and the fundamental principles and rights contained in our Bill of Rights. And as a lawyer, I have fought on an almost daily basis to protect those rights for those clients that I represent. I am now ready for the next phase of my career, to take the passion I still have for the law after all these years, the knowledge that I have gained as a litigator over these past 30 years, the respect that I have earned for my hard work, and the dedication that I have for the law, and apply them as an appellate court judge. As a judge, I will have the utmost respect for the rule of law. I don't see it as my role to create law from the bench, but rather it will be my job to review the record before me and ensure that there is sufficient evidence to support the determinations made by the trial court and determine if the trial court correctly applied the law. I believe my background, my extensive experience in the most difficult of cases, and the passion that I continue to have for the law makes me the best candidate for this position. I am Marshall Lachman, and I am asking for your vote for Judge of the Second District Court of Appeals. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Epley, your closing statement.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much again for hosting us. It's too bad that we couldn't be in person, but you made great exceptions, and this is fantastic to get the audience to learn the candidates, because that's the most important part of a democracy is know your candidates, get to know who they are, and if we have to do it by Zoom, let's do it. So again, I'm thankful for that. You've caught me at a really important time in my career, because I'm preparing for my class at UD. And in the past, we've always appeared in person. And so it's as you teach, you become more familiar with your environment. We change the simulation every year. But this year, we're pretty much online. So this experiment that we're Zooming with now will be like our class that we'll be holding here beginning next week. And so I'm finishing up that simulation so we can prepare those students. So I go back to those three things about me: that I teach appellate law, I practice appellate law, and I have judicial experience as a magistrate. I also am very grateful and thankful for my family that's in town. My wife and I and my two children, my mother, we all spoke about this a year ago when I was approached about running for this position. And I'm grateful that they've been involved with me, that we have these great conversations. It's really a part of our community to be able to talk about the Constitution, what the Court of Appeals does. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what I've done in the community. I'm proud of being part of Leadership Dayton back in 2007, so we could really get to know the different communities that make up the Miami Valley. And that was a great experience for me. It's hard to believe that was, 13 years ago that I took part in that program. But again, I'm Chris Epley. I'm running for Court of Appeals, and I appreciate your support and vote on November 3rd. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you for your participation today. I learned something from both of you. The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public and to strengthen our elective political process. Look for our voters guide in libraries and on your doorstep the week of October 12th. Election day is Tuesday, November the 3rd. Early voting begins October the 6th at your Board of Elections, or you can request an absentee ballot. However you decide to vote, your opinion matters and helps make our democracy work. So please vote, and good luck on your campaigns, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.